Good morning. On Daybreak this morning, we talk about the media shutting down debate. We'll talk about World Down Syndrome Day. Did you realise that actually happened? Also talk about cartoons, rainbow crossings, and companies who are going woke and going broke. Welcome to Daybreak. Good morning to you. It is the 24th of March, Monday morning, start of a new week. Hope you had a great weekend. Right, did you know on Friday that it was World Down Syndrome Day? They call on all governments to improve their support systems. Did you know about that? Was there a special flag at your school? Was there a special bake sale, a fundraising sale for Down syndrome? I actually posted this over the weekend because I was interested to know just how much schools got into this as they got into whole weeks of pride and LGBT. And of course, what I found was that, yes, there was a few schools, but you could count them on one hand. And that's the interesting thing, is that Down syndrome don't have a lobby group or a cross-parliamentary network. There's not a special room in the Parliament building for Down syndrome. It's not quite sexy enough, is it? And so there was no special flag and there was no special week. There wasn't even a day. It was barely recognised. But we recognise it because Down syndrome kids are special and they deserve our respect. And I have a lot of time for families and parents of Down syndrome kids. So let's honour World Down Syndrome Day, even if the culture doesn't want to in the New Zealand media. I didn't see any shows on One News or Q&A or breakfast highlighting it as well. All right, let's have a look at what are the media focused on. Well, this was amazing. I saw this post that said that Media Watch, which is on Radio New Zealand, were talking about school lunches yet again. And they actually showed, as this graph shows, that over the past 4 weeks, Radio New Zealand, it's just Radio New Zealand, the state broadcaster, has published more than 100 news articles or audio pieces on the school lunches issue. So that's not news coverage anymore. That is clearly a campaign, but of course we all knew that. And speaking of that, of course, remember this cartoon that offended a lot of people. It was published by Stuff, so it was in a lot of their newspapers around the country, including the Wairarapa Times Age. Now, Wairarapa is Masterton, and that's where those arsons on the churches have been. So it's a sensitive issue, but that didn't stop our cartoonists. And so they published this. Let me just enlarge that. And of course, it's linking to the school lunch issue, but it's also, you can see there down the bottom, you know, it'd be a true miracle if you break off a few pieces of bread from that body of yours. It's the disrespect towards the Christian faith. Now, I actually said, hey, Stuff, I challenge you to do one on Islam now, I dare you. And a few people complained to the newspaper and asked them, well, why didn't you make a comment? Why don't you do cartoons about Islam as well? Why do you show them respect and not the Christian faith? And I'm not saying they shouldn't show Islam respect, but why respect for one and disrespect for the Christian faith? This was their response. Read cartoons about Muhammad. There is a well-known case of a French magazine, Charlie Hebdo, publishing a number of these which led to the murder of a number of journalists and others by Islamic extremists. That's actually quite a telling statement. What is it about New Zealand Muslims that the media are trying to imply here? That if they publish a cartoon with a bit of fun about Islam, that there could be murder? I mean, what do they know? That's not my understanding of the Muslim faith and the Muslim people that I know in New Zealand. So it's an amazing omission, and actually I think it's just a cop-out. Over the weekend, I never realised Ben & Jerry's, I don't know if you've had their ice cream, but I'd recommend you don't, because I've actually realised just how radical they are. They're a Vermont-based ice cream in the US, but they're known for their liberal causes. They even have flavours to save the rainforest, to bring attention to climate alarmism. They even had Yes Pecan, which was a playoff of Barack Obama's Yes We Can. And they even had flavours to celebrate the legalisation of gay marriage in the United States. And then they had this one. Today is, well, it wasn't a flavour, it was just a promo. Today is National Abortion Provider Appreciation Day. And they trotted out the usual lies about pro-life laws jeopardising the health of mothers, ignoring the fact that abortion kills an unwanted child or an unborn child, and it even jeopardises the health and life of the mother. But the more I read, I actually found that, wow, Ben and Jerry's are just totally into everything radical. They are pro-Palestinian, they were pro-BLM. In fact, they were even sending food to the rioters during the BLM riots. They fund the Planned Parenthood, and they were lobbying for Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. So, yeah, I thought this cartoon was very good. I scream, you scream, we all scream, because Ben and Jerry's ice cream wants to kill us all. Speaking of woke, the latest Snow White movie is out, Snow White and the Seven Pronouns, and it's by this lead, Rachel Zegler, who says that Snow White, the original Snow White story, has antiquated ideas about woman and power. And then there's this big argument. I mean, it hasn't pleased anybody. They haven't used real dwarfs, which has upset the dwarf community, the little people actors. They've gone for computer-generated images. They've got two actresses. One is pro-Israel, and this one, Snow White, is pro-Palestinian. And what was the other thing? Oh, that's right. This lead actor, also when Trump was elected last year, she said she hoped that every Trump voter would what did she say? Never know peace. So she has basically upset everybody in sight. And the apparently, according to the reviews, the movie isn't that bad, but it's just that this actor that's playing Snow White, and the fact that they didn't actually go with seven dwarfs, they originally went with seven pronouns, sort of, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then they ended up going back to computer-generated dwarfs. So it's been a bit of a disaster. The reviews are saying that it's not a bad movie, although well, that's up to you. But yeah, it's suffered from wokeness. I saw that Nike's sales have fallen 9% over the last year, and maybe it's to do with the fact that when they were promoting women's gear, they used a dude who has spent 1 year transitioning to a girl. This is Dylan Mulvaney. You think they would realise. Interesting decision that came out of the High Court on Friday, back here in New Zealand, and it was about this rainbow crossing in Wellington. Now, applicants said that the crossing was a safety risk and that it basically didn't follow. When you say pedestrian crossing, what do you think? You think black and white. But, of course, councils go woke, and so they build these crossings. And this was challenged in court, and the judge said, well, the rainbow marking served a purpose connected with the use of the road. Well, it's kind of connected. It sort of shows where the crossing is, but to a driver, an international driver coming through there, they wouldn't be quite clear that it's a pedestrian crossing. The judge said the additional purpose of supporting and celebrating LGBTQIA+ pride did not compromise safety. The rainbow crossing did not resemble a zebra crossing. No, it doesn't. So it's only the traffic lights there that would actually protect a pedestrian. But that's exactly the same with the one in K Road, Auckland as well. Tauranga City recently put up a woke virtue signalling rainbow crossing as well, but they were clever because you'll see what they did. They put the illegal the crossing there, black and white, and then just put the painting on either side. Now that part of town is actually dead anyway because the council has completely gutted it and there's a whole lot of shops up for lease. But they have actually not broken the law the way they have done it. So they got round the virtue signalling, even though when they asked businesses whether they want it, businesses didn't want it or didn't care. They wanted to just get on with surviving. I've also released a Substack today looking at MB. You remember I did a blog on MFAT, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and how woke they were and all the diversity, equity and inclusion? Well, I did a similar expose on MB, Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment. And I found out, oh yeah, they are woke as well, ramming down the diversity, equity and inclusion. And they even have the lanyards. And let me just show you the quote when they do training with their staff. They say, rainbow lanyards are a taonga for all MBI people who support the LGBTQIA plus community. Apparently you can wear them on all their sites. So, gee, maybe you can't wear certain lanyards on certain sites. Yeah, right. But listen to the language. Wearing a rainbow lanyard reflects your understanding and respect of people who have different sexual and gender identities. By wearing a lanyard, you agreed to behave in a manner that shows your and the rainbow community's understanding and respect for this taonga. Wow, I mean, that sounds like a teacher telling off a bunch of primary school kids, doesn't it? Anyway, check out my blog or Substack on that issue. That came out this morning. Yesterday, there was a very small protest at Parliament by a group of gender activists who want to chemically castrate our children with puberty blockers. It was a small one, but of course the media turned up. They don't turn up to the March for Life, but they turned up for this one. But what I found interesting was that the New Zealand Herald and Radio New Zealand both covered this on Facebook, but you'll note down the bottom there, so this is New Zealand Herald and this is Radio New Zealand. Neither of them allowed comments. This is how weak the argument is for puberty blockers and the so-called gender affirmation. It can't actually withstand scrutiny or debate. I mean, the whole issue is out for public consultation, but Radio New Zealand and the New Zealand Herald don't want to allow the discussion because they know the argument for puberty blockers is that weak. I found that quite ironic. One other sad story this morning is that there is a crisis in paediatric palliative care, that is palliative care for terminally ill children. Yes, Sole Specialist is on leave. But don't worry, there's plenty of funding and staff available if you want euthanasia. It's a very sad dichotomy, isn't it? We fund euthanasia fully, but we can't fund palliative care for children. And one other story I found ironic was that Wellington City Council paid $22,000 for toilets for the hikoi. Now, let me just tell you, I've been involved in organising the March for Life in Wellington. I want you to know that when we do those marches, one of the biggest expense is paying for road management just to be able to march to Parliament. It's a big cost. But when I've done Official Information Act requests to find out who else is paid, I've found that most other groups don't pay for this. Only we get pinged for it. And I also found out that when the students did the climate change crisis alarmism march, the council actually paid their road management fee. And here we have the council paying for portaloos, despite not paying for toilets for other protests. Well, that just shows you sort of the topsy-turvy woke council that is in Wellington. Probably no surprise. Tonight, Straight Talk. We've got Ashley Church, Susie Miller, Elliot Ikele and Mel Taylor. We'll be talking about that actions of Prime Minister Christopher Luxon in India. Yeah, that was very interesting. Lots of discussion. I think that was probably the topic of a lot of sermons yesterday at many churches around the country. Anyway, I'm out of time, well out of time. Thanks for watching, and we will see you on Wednesday at this time. Have a great day.